first stone is placed, and before the first idea is born, there is a moment when the artist asks herself, who am I becoming through this work? These are the 10 chapters of my becoming. Chapter 1: How Mosaic Found Me. Before I became a mosaic artist, I was just a girl trying to survive. When we moved from Gabes to Tunis, me and my sister had nothing clear in front of us, just the need to find work, any work. My sister had studied mosaic at the university. I studied English. She found a job first, working on portraits for a company, and I joined her, not as an artist, but simply as a pair of hands trying to help. She cut the stone for me because I was so weak to cut marble. I just filled the easy spaces and random shapes, simple areas, nothing artistic yet. But something unexpected happened in that silence. Something shifted inside me. The more I touched the stones, and the more I felt the mosaic opening a doorway in me. The void, a meditative ocean, a place where my mind finally stopped running and my intuition began to speak. Nobody taught me, so I became my own teacher. Watching and searching, learning colors, observing how fragments transform into harmony. And slowly, the mosaic didn't just become my work. It became the way I met myself, the way I learned to listen to the quiet voice inside. It had been 10 years now, and I'm still learning. But every piece I place feels like placing a part of my own story back where it belongs. Chapter 2: The Season of Chaos. After those first years, something inside me began to shift again. The mosaic no longer felt like a job. It became a mirror, and that mirror started revealing the truth. I was no longer the girl who just filled empty spaces. I started seeing beauty in the parts everyone else avoided. The shards, the dust, the unplanned cracks. Chaos began to call me. There were days when my table was a battlefield of stones, colors scattered everywhere, shapes that didn't belong together, and yet something in me loved that wildness, because chaos is honest. It shows you what you are afraid to touch. It reveals the pieces of your inner world you have been avoiding. And the more I worked with these fragments, the more I realized something. Art doesn't begin when things are perfect. Art begins when you dare to touch the mess. So I started listening to the broken edges, the dust on my hands, the rhythm of the tiny stones falling like prayers. Chaos taught me patience. Chaos taught me softness. Chaos taught me trust. And slowly, what seemed disordered started forming its own rhythm. Because inside every chaotic piece, there is a hidden story waiting for the one who can hear it. And I was finally becoming the woman who could hear it. Chapter 3: The Gaze That Opens Worlds. After I learned to sit with chaos, another doorway opened. I began with the eyes, simple shapes at first, a curve, a dot, a shadow, but each one carried a presence that felt older than technique, older than me. When I worked on eyes, I felt something watching back, not in a frightening way, but as if the mosaic itself was finally seeing me. These eyes were not portraits, they were mirrors, mirrors into the spaces I had ignored, the intuition I had silenced, the wild self inside me that had been waiting patiently behind closed doors. I started understanding that every artist carries an inner gaze, a way of seeing the world that no one else can replicate, and mine was awakening. I felt chaoses of the stories I once read in the women's mythologies, the teachings of the wild woman who walks with her instincts, the whispers of the Swedish forests from artists like Joanna Janton, who remind us to listen to silence. The eyes I created began to hold these memories of chaos, of softness, of the wild feminine waking up inside the stones. Bit by bit, I learned that vision isn't just what we look at, it's what arises inside us when we dare to look deeper. And this was the beginning of a new chapter in my art, the chapter where seeing became a form of healing. Chapter 4: The Woman Who Walks with Stones. As my gaze awakened, something else began to change, my relationship with the stones themselves. At the beginning, stones were just materials, hard, heavy, things that needed to be cut and shaped and controlled. But with time, they became companions. I started noticing that each stone carries its own memory, a vibration, a hidden softness beneath the surface of its weight. There were mornings when I touched the marble and felt a deep calm inside me, as if the stone knew something about endurance that I hadn't learned yet. And I realized I wasn't just creating mosaics, I was walking beside ancient matter, fragments of earth, pieces older than silence. This changed everything. The small girl who once felt too fragile to break a stone became the woman who listens to them. Every crack became a story, every shard a lesson, every fragment a reminder that nothing broken is ever truly lost. I started collecting colors the way other people collect memories, and slowly the stones began to guide me, teaching me patience, teaching me strength, teaching me that softness and power can live in the same hand. I no longer walked toward art, I walked with it, with the stones, with the chaos, with the quiet woman I was becoming. This was the chapter where mosaic stopped being a craft and became a language. Chapter 5: The Silence That Shapes Me. With time, I noticed that mosaic doesn't come from my hands alone. It comes from silence. Not the silence that feels empty, but the silence that feels alive. A silence that hums softly when I'm alone with the stones. The kind that appears when the world outside disappears and the world inside widens. In this silence, colors speak. In this silence, fragments find their place without me forcing them. And in this silence, I meet myself, not a version that tries to be strong or perfect or ready body, but the version that simply is. Sometimes I feel like nature enters my workshop. The sound of distant prayers at dawn, the breath of something ancient moving through my fingers. This silence became my teacher. It taught me how to listen to the voice beneath the noise, the intuition that doesn't shout, it whispers. And the more I listened, the more my art became a place where spirit and matter meet, where stones are not cold, where chaos is not frightening, and where the woman I'm becoming finally has a place to breathe. This is the silence that shapes me. Chapter 6. The Call of the Hidden Wells. There comes a moment after the first light, after the first whisper, when the world asks me to go deeper, not forward, not upward, but inward. This is the moment when silence thickens and the air feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for me to notice something ancient beneath my feet. I walk through the early morning fields, dough resting like tiny worlds on every ballad of grass, and suddenly I feel it, a gentle vibration rising from the earth, as if there are hidden wells beneath me, wells of memory, wells of forgotten color, wells of stories that want to be told through my hands. I kneel, I listen, and I realize that creation is not always a spark from above. Sometimes it is a pull from below, a magnetic tug from the roots, inviting me to dig, to uncover, to remember. This is the journey of the inner artisan, the place where my micro-mosaic begins to gather its soul. Every stone I choose is not random. It is a forgotten and all the truth, calling me back to something I once knew but have not yet named. This chapter is not loud. It is a quiet descent, a returning, a listening, a learning to trust the messages that arise from stillness. My art deepens here. Chapter 7. The Gathering of Colors. I begin to notice colors differently, not as shades I choose, but as energies that choose me. Some mornings it's the deep lapis of a silent sky, and other days the warm breath of terracotta soil, and sometimes a sudden spark of gold that arrives without explanation. I realize that every color carries a memory of places I walked, of stories I lived, of moments that shaped my hands long before I held my first stone. So I gather them, not like an artist collecting pigments, but like a storyteller collecting chapters. Each color becomes a companion on my path. Each mosaic begins before I ever touch it. And as I gather these hues, I feel myself gathering the forgotten parts of me. Chapter 8. The shaping of the message. There comes a day when the colors, the stones, the memories all stand before me, waiting. I sit with them in silence. I breathe and I ask softly, what do you want to say through me? And something opens. A whisper becomes a sentence. A feeling becomes a symbol. A symbol becomes a story. This is the chapter where my art shifts from craft to message, from beauty to meaning, from hands to heart. I realize I'm not just shaping mosaics, I am shaping messages that want to travel through me into the world. I don't force them, I let them arrive, and I honor the message that chooses me each time. Chapter 9. The birth of the piece. Then comes the moment of creation, the moment where everything I gathered asks to be given form. I sit with my colors, my tools, the stones, my breath, and I enter a quiet universe where time disappears. Piece by piece, line by line, I build a world that never existed before. The stones feel like they are remembering their place. My hands move with a wisdom I don't fully understand. There is no rush, no noise, only presence. This is the birth of the piece, not just an artwork, but a living story that carries the weight of the journey behind it. When it's finished, I don't feel pride, I feel gratitude, because something sacred has passed through me. Chapter 10. The final chapter. The offering. And finally, the journey brings me back to the world. I hold the finished piece in my hands, and I realize it's no longer mine. It belongs to the person who will feel its message, to the soul who will recognize its story, to the heart that needs its symbolism the most. So I release it, not with sadness, but with love. Every creation is an offering, a blessing, a reminder that beauty can rise from silence and meaning can grow from stillness, and light can return even after the darkest journey within. I stand at the end of this cycle, knowing a new one will begin again, because the earth still whispers, the colors still call, and my hands are still listening. And so, the cycle closes. 10 chapters, 10 lessons, 10 mirrors, showing me who I am when I create. This is not the end. This is the beginning of everything I'm ready to uncover next.